Hello, listeners. Welcome back to Dead Air. Question: what's your favorite poem? Is it particularly good? Would you be willing to die for it? If you answered yes, then you might have something in common with the hero of tonight's tale. Now, let us begin this evening's suspenseful story. 2462.
I only ask the place and time enough to give some small meaning to the meaningless and point to having lived. I woke up on the floor shivering. All my clothes were gone. It was like a nightmare. A nightmare I had dreamed many times before and dreaded coming true. At first, I thought I had woken up in my own room, that someone had taken all my furniture and clothes. But then I realized it wasn't so much a room as it was a cube. An empty, sterile cube with luminescent walls that hummed with a soft blue-green light. I jumped up then and threw myself against the walls, trying to find a way out. And there was none. No door, no window, not even a ventilation tube. I banged on the walls and screamed, but no one answered me. Nothing. Only the smooth, plastic blue-green walls that hummed with the electric current within that gave them light and air. I slumped back down to the soft, foam plastic floor of my cell, and I squeezed my eyes tight against the walls, afraid I was going to cry. Afraid to admit to myself where I was. Just then, the wall in front of me slid back on its tracks, and in the pale light of the corridor, I could see a tall, shambling woman in prison coveralls, with a 9-digit number tattooed on her forehead. What do you want?
Follow me.
She turned her back on me and stepped on the moving conveyor in the corridor. I stumbled after her because I was afraid to be left alone. I had to know what was happening.
No talk. Just follow me.
I could tell by the steady movement of her jaw and the dull, far-away look on her face that I could question her all day, and it wouldn't do any good. She was chewing tranquil gum, and the effects of that stuff lasts for weeks. I could scream at her, and it wouldn't bother her. Nothing would bother her. Unless I tried to escape. I knew where I was now. There could be no doubt of that. I rode behind my silent guide up and down what seemed like endless corridors, past row upon row of cells just like the one I had left. Some of them had their reverse scanners on. That meant you could see in, but the prisoners couldn't see out. Some of them were sitting in the middle of their cube, staring at nothingness. But most of them were slumped on the floor, asleep, kept that way by somni-gas, a gentle gas that kept the inmates unconscious and manageable until their cases came up. I knew one day I would wind up here. And here I was, in the most scientific, escape-proof extermination center in the world.
And here.
The guard stepped off the conveyor in front of a heavy chrome door marked courtroom and pushed a button. I moved through the doorway like a schoolboy called upon to recite. The room was not much bigger than the cell I had left. A lieutenant sat behind a desk. Her plastic bars gleamed at me brightly from her shoulders. I heard my guard close the door behind us. Then I noticed one wall was completely covered with the sleepy face of a computer.
Sit down.
I did as I was told, on the only other piece of furniture in the place. A small, three-legged stool in the middle of the room. I wished that they had given me some sort of clothes to cover my nakedness because, besides the woman, there was a camera behind her, recording everything in the room for the computer to transcribe.
Identity?
Frank Smith.
I said your identity.
I told you, ma'am.
Do not hold up the proceedings. Time is precious. You were issued a combination serial social and telephone number that was imprinted on your forehead at birth. From here, it appears to be 10-830-3715. Is that correct?
That is the number tattooed on my forehead.
Let the record show the subject is hostile. Let us proceed. Case of the People versus 10-830-3715. Convened in the first court at 1800 hours in this day of our world, the 18th of November, 2462. 10-830-3715, you are charged with 2 counts. 1, writing non-productive literature, and 2, wasting government time. How do you plead? True or false?
I don't understand.
Have you or have you not written poetry?
I'm a clerk in the space department.
True or false?
False.
I have here some 100 pieces of Dabro. I shall read a portion of one. See if you recognize it. In my treeless, greenless office, amid the bustling, mad despair, I hunger after exile from the chrome and filtered air. Well?
It's not a very good poem, is it?
Did you or did you not write this poem? True or false?
I hardly see...
Answer true or false.
False.
Account then for the fact that this poem was written on your electrowriter.
There are millions of electrowriters.
As you may or may not know, each electrowriter has its own characteristics, as individual as fingerprints. An expert has identified this poem as coming from your machine. I can call him in to testify if you like.
There are 2 shifts. I'm not the only one assigned to that machine.
You are not only a poet, you are a very stupid one. Every electrowriter imprints the date and hour of transmission. In every case, the poems were written on your machine while you were sitting at it, supposed to be doing the invaluable work of the Space Department. What have you to say?
What can I say?
You are charged with 2 very grave counts in this court, writing non-productive literature and wasting government time. How do you answer?
How else can I answer? Guilty.
10-830-3715, you insist upon imposing on this court concepts of legality as ancient as year 1962. In this court, subjects are neither guilty or non-guilty. They are simply productive or non-productive, social or antisocial. I repeat, are these charges against you true or false? Answer one or the other.
False.
Very well. Let the record show that all facts in consideration of this court are now at hand and currently submitting to the computer the subject's work record, fitness report, sanity estimations, IQ, cooperation quotient.
I watched like a sleepwalker as the lieutenant handled the thin, punched, and tabulated cards that were the history of my life. I watched with a gambler's fascination as one by one she fitted them into the monster's mouth. lights blinked and flickered across its face. Digesting my life and worth on this earth, and estimating in hours and seconds how much longer I'd be permitted to stay. Suddenly, I realized the computer had stopped. The lights across its face were dark. The machine's mouth spat out a thin, red plastic card. The lieutenant picked it up and read my fate.
Number 10-830-3715, it is the decision of this court you are no longer essential or desirable to life on this earth.
What?
On the 343rd day of the year, 2462, you will be taken from your cell to the Division of Agriculture for processing.
No!
Your body will be reduced to its basic components, and your existence on Earth will be terminated.
Oh, no. In God's name, please give me another chance!
It is the decision of this court.
You can't condemn a man to die for writing a few lines of poetry!
Not for writing a few lines of poetry, for being a poet. If you were a scientist or engineer, we could afford to overlook these excessive characteristics in your personality. Forgive the writing of a few lines of Dabero. But you are not a scientist, or engineer, or even a mathematician. You are a clerk in the space department, and according to your work record, not very good at that.
I have no head for figures.
At a time when the world is crying out a need for mechanical and technical brains, the best you are suited for is rhyming words on scraps of paper. Can you possibly imagine the loss of society?
I stood, looking at the young woman who was a lieutenant. Saw her eyes on me. Her lips moved, but no sound came out. Everything she said was true. The world was in trouble. 400 years ago, they thought they were having a population explosion. But they should see it now. People live as far beneath the ground as above. New York was built out 30 miles over the water, and people commuted to work from as far away as Ohio and Michigan. Even the deserts were populated. It took mathematical and technical brains just to keep it all going. Not to mention the problem of finding new worlds in space.
10-830-3715, it must be apparent that even if you had some mechanical ability for the service and repair of computers and machines, you might...
I could try to learn!
But you have no mechanical ability. Your aptitude tests show that.
Just give me a chance to learn.
There is no time. The world needs these talents now, not a month or a year from now.
But all I want is to live.
We all want to live. That is the whole problem. The function of this court is to weed out the people who are not necessary to the continuation of life from those who are. Artists, philosophers, theologians, and poets are not necessary. You have been found to be a poet.
I appeal to the mercy of the court.
There is no mercy in a mathematical equation.
Oh, give me another chance, just one!
Number 10-830-3715, you are wasting the court's time. I have many more cases to deal with today. As you stand now, you are a drain on the Earth's natural resources, and exactly 20 days from now, you will contribute to them. Case dismissed.
Look, I have one favor to ask. Everyone has granted one last request.
What is it?
I have the right, do I not, to spend my remaining days conscious.
Yes, but you should request somnogas. Time goes by much faster, and then the end is not so painful.
I want to spend my last days conscious.
Conscious? Why?
So I can write.
Right?
Yes, write. I wouldn't have to have an electrowriter in my cell, just a pen would do. I know how to use a pen and some paper. I know you have no power over the decision of the court, but it just this one last request as one human to another.
Very well. Orders will be left that a paper and pen will be left at your disposal.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you.
No more can be granted than the law allows. You may spend your last remaining days on Earth conscious and writing gibberish poems or whatever else you wish. Next case.
I had to bite my tongue to keep from shouting and turning handsprings all the way back to my cell. I had won the right to remain conscious for my last days on Earth. The right to have one more chance at life and freedom. I realized fully how small a chance that was. In the days when men still believed crime was cured by punishment, my cell would have been a jailer's dream. The smooth plastic walls were flawless. I searched the whole cube and found no more than the first time I saw them. Not even the little pinholes which admitted the gas that finished you. I had hoped to dig under the soft foam rubber plastic on the floor with the point of my pen. But I dug at it and it couldn't even scratch it. For what must have been 5 days, I studied the prison routine in hopes of jamming the door and overpowering one of the guards. But it was impossible. Once a day, the wall was rolled back and food was tossed in, wrapped in electrothalline, and the wall rolled back again before you could get to it. It was impossible to wait near the door because the guards could see you waiting there and would not open it until you were well back in the center of the cell. On what must have been the 10th day, I started to have hallucinations. People began to appear in my cell and chat with me. People who had long since been dead. To stave off madness, I picked up the broken stub of my pen and began to write feverishly. I wrote a poem to a girl I had seen once when I was 14. And then I wrote about the last blade of grass I had seen. I wrote faster and faster until I was completely caught up in the joy of writing about all the things I could remember until I lost track of time and place. Oh no, it isn't time. I still have time left. 20 days, she said.
Shh. Quiet, son. You still have 2 days to go.
What do you want?
To talk. Mind if I come in?
It's your prison. He didn't come in all the way, but stood in the door, out of sight, out of the hall, but blocking my way. He was a very old man, with skin like mottled parchment. His prison coveralls hung on him like an elephant's skin. Who are you?
I am the night duty guard.
What do you want?
Just to talk.
I've never seen you before.
But I've seen you. Every night I watch you, looking over your shoulder, reading the things you write.
I hope you enjoyed yourself.
I did. I haven't read any new poetry in 50 years, since the computers came in. You've got away with words.
Thank you, sir.
It's all right. There's one poem you wrote, night before last.
Which one, sir?
The one about a man who's going to die and doesn't know why.
Oh. You mean this one?
Yes, that's the one. Would you mind reading it for me? My eyes tire easily.
Okay. In the monumental silence of a long and pointless strife, I'm pained at my reluctance to let go this last of life. I only ask the place and time enough to give some small meaning to the meaningless and point to having lived.
Yes, I like that. How would you like to get out of here?
Are you crazy?
No.
No one gets out of here alive.
Gods do.
but I'm not a guard.
Could be.
Now I know you're crazy.
You could be if you put on my clothes. My uniform.
That wouldn't do any good. They'd still recognize me by the number on my forehead.
That's what gave me the idea. Look at your numbers, and look at mine.
108808715.
Only the eights are different.
Yes.
We could take that pen of yours and make your threes look like eights quite easily.
But you're an old man. I'm young. They would recognize the difference immediately.
No, they wouldn't. The only one who sees me is the guard that relieves me, and she's on Happy Gum. The only thing she looks at is my number. As long as that's right, she's happy. She couldn't tell you what I looked like if her life depended on it.
But why?
I don't know why. Maybe I just like poetry. Maybe because I'm going to die anyway. Look at me. I'm 110. Yesterday I read they're going to start eliminating everybody over 102. It will probably be law before the year is out.
But that's still a year to live, maybe more.
A year of what? I can't smell anymore. My taste buds are gone. My hands and feet are always cold.
That's not the real reason, is it?
No, it's not.
Then what is?
I have a granddaughter about your age. Beautiful girl. She used to write and paint some when she was young. Of course, we had to discourage it after the computers came in. Well, it would just make me feel good to know they haven't stamped out the genes for poetry completely. I hate to live in a world where you don't get anything more than what comes blasting in at you over the telecommunicator. Well, what do you say? Are you willing?
I'm willing if you are.
Ah, good. Now listen carefully.
He sat up most of the night explaining his job to me, cross-questioning me to be sure that I remembered it right. His job was simple, mostly just pushing buttons. The difficult part would be finding my way out of the huge prison without looking like I was lost, and getting off the overhead rail at the right stop, to find his daughter's home. Finally, when he was convinced I had it right, he left, promising to change places with me the following night. I was almost afraid to believe him. The hours of what was to be my final night on this earth crept by. The day had been bad enough, but the night was worse. 100 times I decided the night was over and that it had all been a sadistic trick by the old man so he could watch the agony of my final hours to pass the time. I was just about to beat against the walls and scream when...
Quick, help me out of these coveralls.
I thought you wouldn't come.
I had to wait until the end of the watch so you'd have the best chance of escaping.
How much time do I have left?
About 20 minutes. The day guard will be coming to relieve me soon, so hurry, will you? Where's your pen?
Here it is.
Now hold your head still while I change these 3s to 8s.
All right.
Now remember, stay on the overhead rail until you get out of Arizona. My daughter is the next stop after that.
Okay.
There. You're finished. Goodbye.
I don't know what to say.
Don't say anything. Say goodbye before I change my mind. At best, courage is a quicksilver of a thing.
Goodbye, old man. And thanks.
Quick, close the door.
I did as I was told, raising my hand to break the circuit, and I watched as the old man smiled at me and took up his position in front of it. The clock on the board said 10 minutes to 5 in the morning. 10 minutes before I was to be released.
How's it going?
Huh?
I said, how's it going? Everything quiet?
Fine. Fine. I recognized her as the guard who was to relieve the old man. For a minute, I was afraid she'd recognize me, as her eyes drifted across my face. But then they flicked up to my forehead to check the serial number, and she resumed her steady, quiet chewing.
I came in a little early. You can never tell about the overhead rail when it's going to get jammed up.
Yes, I know. Things are a mess. What was that?
Trouble in cell number 84. See the flashing light on the board?
Yes, I'd better turn it off. Cell 84. That was my cell. The one I just left. That meant the old man was probably banging on the walls.
I see cell 84 is scheduled for termination this morning. He probably lost his nerve. They should make them all stay under somnigas while they're here. Makes them easier to handle that way.
I can't turn the alarm off.
Of course you can't. As long as he's banging on the walls and screaming that way, you better go down and see what he wants.
Do I have to?
Of course you do. It's the law. He might have something more he wants to say.
I walked down the hall, feeling the guard's eyes on my back. I didn't dare argue with her anymore for fear she would become concerned. It was all over now. I knew it. I could see the old man beating on the walls of his cell beyond the transparent plastic walls, screaming soundlessly. He had changed his mind. He wanted to live. In a minute, he would be running down the hall, shouting for help, and in 2 hours, I would be dead. I raised my hand to break the electric circuit.
Oh, there you are. I was afraid you wouldn't come back. You took the poems with you, and I couldn't remember that one. All I can remember is I only ask the place. I can't remember how it ends.
I only ask the place and time enough to give some small meaning to the meaningless and point to having lived.
Yes, that's it. And point to having lived.
Conviction will open the doors to many things. Let's just hope his convictions keep those doors open. I wonder what he'll say to the old man's daughter. That's a conversation I'd like to hear. Thank you all for tuning in this month for another episode of Dead Air. Tune in next week for the talkback episode. See you next time.
Hey everybody, thank you all for watching. It really means a lot. If you like what we do and you want to see more, please visit our page or click on the suggested video here on the screen. And please consider hitting those like and subscribe buttons. It does a ton to help us out. I also wanted to tell you that we've launched a Patreon. It does take a lot of time, energy, and a not insignificant amount of money to bring you all of this content. So, if you enjoy our channel and would like to see us grow, please consider joining our Patreon. All of our patrons get a special listing here at the end of the video. Thank you so much for watching.